And welcome to the Band of Brothers podcast. I'm here tonight with an old friend, Jeff Rowberry. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing all right. Happy to
Good,
be
good,
here.
good. It's good to see you. Thanks for being willing to come on and share your story with whoever's listening. There might be guys from the ranch and brothers that are, you know, newer guys. They might be 60 days in. They might have 10 years. So, and whoever else might see this, it's you guys are in for a treat. This guy's an awesome guy. So I appreciate you coming on. Um, so let's start at the beginning. Like, what? Tell me about the first time you used any mind.
Oh, so the first time I used any sort of mind-altering substance was I was a later bloomer. I didn't start early in my life. I think I was 18, almost 19 when I had my first drink,
Wow.
um, and and it was pretty immediate that I wasn't drinking for the taste. I was drinking for the effect. Uh,
Right.
I felt that effect, and
What,
and uh,
what was that? What did that feel like? What was that?
um, it was a um, so for so much of my life, I struggled with um, just all the internal voices, right? Like never really feeling at peace with myself, always feeling either like I was letting someone down, or I was letting myself down, or I wasn't good enough, or I was somehow fundamentally broken, um, and uh, that it's like even when I was around my friends, my good friends, right? Like people that I would consider my best friends and close friend group, it's like there was always this disconnect from them where it's like I felt like they didn't really know me. And if they knew me, then the structure of our relationship would shift and
Mm-hmm.
change in a way that would not be good for me. Um,
They
felt
knew
that.
who you really were, right?
Yep, yep. Felt that way with my family. Felt that way with my friends. And I remember, taking that first drink, and it just like all that stuff went away. It was like I could just be and exist with the group of friends that I was drinking with, and it's like nothing outside of that mattered. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and and it's like that part was manageable for a little while, right? Like I was after I had my first drink, it was a slow burn to the unmanageability, at least
Mm-hmm.
the the blatant and easily noticeable unmanageability, right? It's like I was already unmanageable at that point, but it's like outside looking in, you might not be able to tell it for a
Mm-hmm.
while. It was, it seemed like it was always situational where it's like we were going out or we were having friends over, and so there was always an excuse to partake and
Mm-hmm.
imbibe and uh,
And
and
we're
then
able to wear a lot of masks so people don't know that, you know?
yes, yep, yeah. I've always been good. I was always good at adapting to whatever situation I found myself in with whoever I was around. So, and alcohol just helped me do that to a different sort of degree. Um, and then after alcohol, I drank for probably about a year and a half um, before I tried any other substances.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then I started adding additional substances, right? And it was like ecstasy, I think, was the first one that I tried, and uh, then not far behind that, it was cocaine and mushrooms, and the list goes on. It was like, once I found that there were additional things that could have the same effect, it was like, cool, I want to try them all, right? Like,
Yeah.
like I want to see which one works the best for me. And so there was a good year and a half in there where it's like, it was heavily experimenting with pretty much anything I could get my hands on.
Okay.
And then someone introduced me to Oxycontin. I was probably 21 or 22 at the time. And that was one of those moments. I think that was like the first aha moment, in not a great way, where it's like, oh, this does what I want it to do, and I could do this every day, right? It was like one of those moments where it's like, I could just do this and live my life this way. And that seems like the solution to me, right? Like, this seems like the thing that will fix everything that has been wrong with me.
The answer.
Yeah. It was a revelatory moment. I thought I had found my solution. Like, it was really one of those. And it was like, immediately the first day after I did it, I remember having that thought where it's like, I could do this every day. Like, I could be the best me forever. And so I started, like, that's what I started doing. And it did not take long for things to get bad.
So how old are you now?
23 or 23 to 24. I'm pretty sure. And so I was doing this pretty regularly. It wasn't every day then, even though I had that thought, right? But it became a pretty consistent piece, and the amount of times per week that I was doing it started to increase, right, gradually, and the amounts that I was doing started to increase gradually, which got more and more expensive. And I was working at a Quiznos at the time, and this was the first time where it's like that it progressed enough where it's like a friend of mine and I were doing this together, right? Like, we were both doing painkillers. We were both working at Quiznos. We were assistant managers there. So it's like we had access, and then we were promoted to managers. And so it's like, this is where things escalated more, where it was like, hey, if we just borrow some money from the deposits, that's what we called it, right? Borrowing money. I don't think the cops or the owner would call it that. But it's like, we started to steal money from the store, justifying it in our heads, like, if we can pay it back before the deposit has to go in, like, who's it actually hurting, right? Like, it's fine. It'll be okay. And we got away with that for 5 months maybe, before the owners caught on, and they didn't end up pressing charges, but we for sure lost our jobs. Like we were both asked to not be employed there anymore.
But they did prosecute, huh?
Nope, didn't press charges, didn't prosecute. It was one of the things that was probably not great for me, because it made me feel like I was untouchable. Like the things would just keep working out for me, even though I was making all the worst decisions for myself. And that would catch up to me later, spoilers for further in the story, but
Yeah, I always wonder, like, I even would wonder, like, what if I'd have gotten a DUI when I
yep,
was 25 or 26 or 27, and would I have waited till I was 33? And probably I would have.
yeah,
I don't know that that would have stopped me.
yeah. And with the journey that I've had, it's like you know, I mean, we're getting to the first time that I went to the ranch. So it was not long after that, because I'm pretty sure I was. Let me do some math. I'm pretty sure I was 25 the first time I came into uh, the
Yeah,
ranch.
he came in '09, I think,
Yep.
with some pretty incredible dudes.
Yep. Yes, I did.
Not that they all aren't incredible, but you guys were a powerhouse.
Yeah. So I came in '09, right?
Hmm.
But before that, so in '09, I would have turned 26 in August. I came in April. So I wasn't quite 26. But it was, so the friend that had been kind of my, like, partner in crime through all of this kind of
Hmm.
had uh, an awakening. He's like, I got to get my shit together, right? Like I've got to pull my life together. I can't keep doing this. And so he moved out to California, and it was one of the things, like uh, it's like he got his life on track, right? And it's like he still drinks and imbibes occasionally, but it seems like he just sort of figured that out for himself, which the first time that I relapsed and went back out and he was still doing well, that was like one of those resentments that I held on to. I was like, this guy was doing just as much. He was like there step for step. And it's like,
Hmm.
I can't get my shit together, and he's fine. Uh,
Yeah.
but so he left. We were living together. It's like I had no job prospects, no anything. I moved back home, and I lost my girlfriend around this time, right? So I had been dating someone that was supremely unhealthy for me, super codependent. We were awful for each other. Um, and it's like we broke up because of my addiction, right? It's like I kept lying and hiding things, and it's like she had enough and called it quits. And so I moved back to my parents, and it's like my whole thing was, I'm going to get clean and I'm going to win her back, right? Like
Hmm.
I'm going to get the girl back, and that's my motivation for getting clean.
Hmm.
And I remember feeling so resolved. Like this was the first time since I started drinking that I really uh, felt like I wanted to stop. Right,
Hmm.
all the way up to this point, I was like, yeah, there are some things that might be problems, but nothing big enough that I was like, I should stop. Even though I almost got, caught, and I did get caught, but almost got prosecuted for theft, and it's like, but none of that was enough to make me feel like it was a problem and I needed to stop.
Right. Right.
And so I remember feeling so committed and so resolved, and it's like I lasted like 6 hours, and I was high again, and it's like I tried again, and I think I lasted 7.5 or 8 hours, right? And it was like that's the first time that I felt like broken and a little helpless in a specific way, right? And I went to my parents and I came clean, And I was like, I have a problem. I was like, I need help. I can't do this on my own. And that's when they found the ranch. That was my first time through the ranch. And yeah, I still reach out to some of those guys and see those guys when I can, because they're that '09 crew is pretty incredible.
I just saw Coombsy's dad passed away.
Okay.
So I was happened to be in St. George, and that's where they had his services. So I was able to see he and Pinniger and a few other guys. Taz was there and a few
Yep.
other people.
Yeah. Good men. A lot of
Yeah.
good men in that group.
Yeah, including you, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, went to the ranch in 2009, and was there in the spring. Stayed through the whole program. Did aftercare. Graduated. It was an eye-opening experience. You know, it was my first exposure to the 12 steps. To the idea that the disease model of addiction, to the idea of that drugs weren't the problem, that they were my solution, right? That I had to get down to causes and conditions. And until that happened, like, this Wood said, it's the reason that I only lasted 6 and 8 hours, right? Like I wasn't dealing with the actual problem and trying to apply the actual solution.
Yeah.
So it was an incredible journey through the ranch in '09, and through aftercare.
So what happens after that?
So after that, I move into sober living, with a lot of the guys, with Sherm, with Russ. I don't think Russ was he living there, or did he just come over and visit a lot? I can't remember. He was there a lot though.
Yeah.
And so I'm in sober living and working, and I get a sponsor. Micah was my sponsor out of the ranch the first time, and he was great. Went through the steps with him. Was very plugged into AA and the social support there. And one of the things that has always been a struggle. So I was sexually abused as a child. When I was 5, 6, 7, it went on for an extended period of time in my childhood. And I had always been more sexual as a result, as a direct result of that, right? It's like masturbation and then porn were things that I discovered at a young age, and had always been linked to my abuse. And so we're always just a spot where I felt such incredible and immense shame, right? It was a thing that was so tied up with an event where it's like there were a lot of emotions and beliefs that stemmed from that event, that really caused me to struggle with being able to feel okay with myself, right? And so I'm going through the steps. I'm working through the steps. But there's still this shame cycle that's happening, right? Where it's like I'm trying to abstain because I have been taught and grew up LDS, right? And I've been taught that that's something that I should not be doing, right? Masturbation
Mhm.
and porn is something that I should not be doing. And so every time I slip up, this shame spiral happens, right? So it's like I'm in the steps, I'm doing the steps, and it's keeping me sober from drugs and alcohol, but I can't. I at this point I haven't figured out uh, either how to apply the steps to that situation, or it's a situation that I have not figured out how to deal with at this particular moment. Uh,
Mhm.
and so that shame cycle, it just spirals. And it's like I pick myself back up. I start, moving forward again.
Mhm.
And um, and it's like I'm just acting out in uh, worse behavior sexually, riskier behavior sexually, uh, just like drugs and alcohol, right? Like I feel so much shame
Mhm.
over it that the only thing that makes sense in my head is to do more of the thing that is causing me the shame
Yeah.
because it gives me that temporary relief, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I get on the other side of it and I feel like just absolute dog shit.
It's the
Uh,
same addictive cycle as substances and everything.
yes. And and so eventually through all of this, it's like I was sponsoring people, I was working with Micah, and and it's like I started to feel that same level of hopelessness and despair, um, and I just started disconnecting from everybody.
Mhm.
And it's like I ended up losing the house that I was living at with a bunch of sober brothers. Um, so it's like I moved into my own place, and it was only a matter of time, right? It's like I was alone. I stopped reaching out to Micah. I stopped talking to my sponsees. Stopped
Mhm.
going to meetings, and I think I lasted like 3 months after I left, um, and then I picked up, again. And
So tell me about that cycle. Like when, how much time did you have under your belt?
so I was close to the 2 year mark.
Okay.
So I had picked up my 18-month chip, and
Okay.
in the 6 months between 18 months and 2 years, it's like that's when that cycle really started to devolve and
Mhm.
fall off the rails.
How long
Um,
did you have to fight it?
I mean,
Like, like I'm gonna go use, I'm gonna go that. No, you can't do that. And you use some tools, maybe some cognitive tools or the steps,
so
and
for for the for the 6 months from 18 months to 2 years, um, it was like the thought of using wasn't in my head
mhm.
consciously, right? It wasn't that I was fighting the urge to pick up a substance. Um, I was fighting the feeling of I am just broken. I will always be broken. If that's the case, like what am I doing this for? Right?
Mhm.
Like if I'm fundamentally flawed,
Might as well.
yeah, like why am I trying so hard? like why am I struggling when I could just write it out and be numb and write it to the end, and like whatever happens happens.
Yeah.
And so it was that thought process that I was really struggling with for uh, those 4 or 5 months before I picked up.
And
And
it's funny because we have to talk ourselves into it,
yeah,
so it's like we have to rationalize or justify, or if this, then that approach doesn't work, and we maybe apply the steps to it and we squish it, then we'll come up with another one and another one and another one. And so, and if there's no relief in sight, right? You
yep,
know, why do you think, because I'm sure you were doing that, like you were applying principles of the steps and things you'd learned in the rooms, and like what do you think what do you think you were missing? I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but
Sure. So again, kind of future spoilers, right? But my third treatment center. So I came back to the ranch one more time, and we'll get there. But it's like, I think without the foundation of both those times, then the stuff that happened at that third treatment center, I don't think would have taken root like it did.
right.
But I finally agreed to try an antidepressant.
Okay.
And there were a couple of moments during those days at that treatment center where it's like it was wild to feel the difference, because it's like there were some things in my life where it's like I felt like I could control and identify the spiral and the emotions and the shame, and then apply the steps or apply, cognitive behavioral therapy or whatever tools I had at my disposal, right? And for whatever reason, it felt like I couldn't cross that bridge with anything that was related to sex, right? It's like it almost felt like that whole subject was coated in Teflon, right? It's like whatever I tried to do, it felt like it just slipped right off of it. And I know that, like, pharmacology is not just the answer. Like I said, without all of the foundation from the first 2 times through the ranch, I don't think just adding the antidepressants would have had the effect that it did. But all of a sudden, it felt like my head was clear. Like it was like I had moments where I slipped up, right? In a way that would have sent me over the edge previously. And it was like I could just look at it as like, that's a behavior I don't want to continue. So how can I learn and do something different? And it was like, that was, I know that sounds so simple, like it sounds like duh, but it's like, I had never been able to do that before, like ever in my life. And it was like, there was a combination of some therapy sessions, and I think the antidepressant that just like everything before and during that just sort of slammed into place. And I don't know if it could have happened sooner or if I needed all of the experiences leading up to it for it to click like it did.
Let me ask you, was part of the therapy more trauma-informed therapy?
Yep, 100%.
See, I think those are, I don't know if you call them mistakes, but in the early days of the ranch and when you went through, we didn't use as many interventions in the trauma area as we should have and as they are now and as everybody is now.
Yeah.
Because really, most of the high percentage, 75 plus of men in addiction are survivors.
Yeah.
And of sexual abuse or physical or what sexual typically. And there's so many great interventions out there, EMR and IVF and so many things that help get people there quicker. And so I'm glad you found that, because I think that's a big thing,
Yep. So I think that that combination was the thing that kind of just clicked. It was like the first time, and I know we've skipped ahead a lot, but well, we can go back to the earlier part of the journey. But it's like it was the first time that I felt like I was on solid ground. I think
right.
ever in my life. it's like it had always felt like I had been like standing in quicksand or on, the house of cards, where it's like it did not, my life and my being and just me never felt stable.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that was the first time where it's like it really clicked, and it really felt like things were different. So
what year is this now?
well, which part? Because the third part, the third
When
time
you
I went.
started getting therapy and you took some meds and
So
things.
that was in 2019. So that was 5 years ago.
Okay.
So I'm coming up on my fifth birthday, is on my belly button birthday. So August 21st is my belly button and my sobriety birthday.
No kidding.
Yeah,
August 21st. Wow.
August 21st.
So what are you going to be? You're like what? You cracked 40 just barely, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, 41 this year. So
41.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep. So
You're young, man.
tell that to my knees. My knees do not feel young.
Dude, I know I'm 61 and I just had a full knee replacement a year ago. So
Yeah, my mom just did that this year.
yeah, exactly. See what you just said? Your mom just did
Yeah.
that. So it makes me feel even older than that. That's
I
okay.
mean, I mean, to be fair, Gabe's dad also just had that done. So, and he was our age. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it can happen. Don't let your kids play high school football. Anyway, so it's 2019 and I've had people even say when they found the right medication or found the right intervention and the right therapy that it was almost like a plug got opened and like their brain just drained, like all the clogged was just like, whew, you know.
yeah. It was almost like I had been building the infrastructure or the power grid, right? From the
Mhm.
first time I went through treatment in 2009. Then I
Mhm.
went back to the ranch in 2016, my second time. And it was like through all of that and all of my time in AA, it felt like I was building this grid,
Mhm.
but just couldn't power it, right? Like it wasn't connected to a reliable. And it's like when that therapy and medication combination happened, it felt like, oh, we'll just plug that in for you. You've got all the infrastructure there already. Like,
Yeah.
let's just the blockage is now gone. And
Mhm.
and so yeah, that was 2019. Um,
So what part did your higher power play in that? What part did God play in that with you?
I mean, I think his hand is in everything. It's like I look at all of the steps along the journey, and like I said, I don't know if anything could have happened sooner. It feels like every step of this path of mine has been kind of like I was blessed to come back in 2016 to the ranch and to have the experiences that I had there. I started doing some EMDR and some trauma work, and that opened me up to the idea of like, oh, maybe this is the piece, like one of the pieces of the puzzle that I've been missing. Um, and it's like that connection uh, and the communication um, with my higher power uh, helped me through all of that, right? And so when I finally did get to uh, my third treatment center, it was like I had just sort of let go at that point. It was like before I met my current wife, right? Uh, before I went to treatment the third time. Um,
Mhm.
I was sober when I met her. I was not sober very quickly after I met her.
Mhm.
I did not meet her in the most uh, in the in the most stable and great part of my journey. I was spiraling, and I met her, and she kicked me out when she found out that I was using. Not the first time. She found out I was using the first time, and she's like, "Let's get you some help." And then I started lying to her again, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm clean," but I was still, using. And then she found out that I had been lying. She kicked me out, and it's like I had kind of written things off at that point. I had given up. I had a plan, right? It's like I had a plan to exit this life, to just be done. And it's like I was just kind of using until the night and the courage came up, and I could just exit stage left. And I feel like everything that happened, especially in that last part of this journey, was just perfectly guided, exactly the way that it needed to happen. I went through detox at the volunteers at the VOA, right?
You went to VOA.
Went to VOA. And
wow, that's commitment.
Yeah. Well, I was high on the doorstep of the VOA. My wife, came to find me after she kicked me out. And she's like, "I'm still here, but I'm only here if you're willing to do something." And in my head, I was like, "I will do this. I know it's going to fail, and then you'll leave, and that's going to be like the last thing that needs to happen before I can, that connection will break, and I can just walk away." So I go to the VOA, and she fights my sister, not physically, right? But she's talking to my sister, and my sister wants me to go back to the ranch. She knows the ranch. She loves the ranch. The ranch has done wonderful things for me. And Hillary really advocated. She's like, "I think he needs something more specific to, his trauma work and that side of things." And so she fought to get me where I ended up. And it's like, if those things don't happen, it's like, I don't know if I'm here today. Right.
Yeah.
And
I think it's hard sometimes coming back, and especially a third time and the second time. And there's this probably this shame and what happened. And there's this, whatever, like it's got to be hard. And sometimes you just need a different environment, a different voice, a different intervention. It's like you said, it's all a God thing. Like he inspires all the modalities, EMDR and all that. He inspires people to create all the medications. He's the master scientist, right? And I think that Hillary was inspired to send you a different direction.
Yeah,
for sure.
I feel that. Specifically, like I know that there has been this feeling of guidance throughout the journey that I have had, but especially in that time period, because it's like I was there, and it's like there were some groups, and there was a therapist that was wonderful that left almost directly after I left, right? And it's like she was there. I think she left the treatment center literally like a week after I was done at the treatment center. And it's like, I don't think that, I'm not sure I would have had the same experience
Right.
if she hadn't, right? Like the timing of things. And there were people there who shared pieces of their story that just clicked in ways that hadn't up until that point.
Right.
And it was it was a moment for me, because it's like I started to finally discover who I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I had for years and years and years. It's like I grew up in the church, right? And I grew up with a family who's very active in the church, and there is this idea of what it means to be a Rowberry, right? And it's like I chose what college I went to because every Rowberry goes to BYU. You can't. I mean, nobody says you can't go to another school, but it's just that's where everybody goes.
Yeah.
So why would I go anywhere else, right? Like, and it felt like I had been living my life trying to be who I thought everybody else close to me wanted me to be. Because I felt like if I was just me, I would lose everyone that was important to me, right? I would lose my family. I would lose my friends. That I couldn't just exist as me and have the connections that I do today.
Yeah.
And that all changed, right? It's like that final treatment center and the journey afterwards, combining the 12 steps, my connection to my higher power, the trauma work, and the like cognitive behavioral tools. It's like all of that stuff. It's like I know who I am today. And it's like that is, it's like knowing who I am and actually being okay with who I am, right? Like I'm not perfect. I still fuck up royally, you know, and make decisions that I look at and I'm like, that's not the type of person that I want to be, right? Like I need to work on this. And it's like, that's what that daily inventory and the consistent work is trying to address, right? Like I am a continual work in progress, but I love the work in progress that I am today.
That's awesome, dude.
And it's like, I didn't think that was possible, right? Like that is the thing that sobriety has given me that I think means more than anything else. Cause it's like, without that, I don't have anything else. Without that connection to my higher power and myself, right? Without being able to be true to who I am, everything else falls apart. It's like, I don't have my wife. I have a 3-year-old little boy that I didn't think I would have kids. I thought that my stepson was going to be my son, right? Like he was just going to be mine. And he is, and he's wonderful. But I also have this little 3-year-old bundle of energy and vibrance. And it's like, I never thought that I was deserving of that. And I never thought I would have it. And it's like I have that today, and it's as a result of, you know, the 12 steps and my higher power and this entire journey that I've been on, you know, working through the trauma that I didn't want to touch with a you know 100-foot long pole, right? And doing the work to address those causes and conditions, and finally breaking down. I remember both in 2009 and 2016 having the mindset of like, I don't want to medicate. Medication is weakness, right? Like I can't take anything because that will somehow invalidate any of the progress that comes after that. And finally breaking down and and listening to a doctor who's like, you might want, like, given how we're talking about this, this might be something you want to consider.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's that humility, right? Like the finally being broken down enough to try the things that I was so against.
Yeah.
So
A lot of blessings, huh, dude? A lot of blessings.
yeah. Yep.
So all the, the promises in the big book and in the big book, and they're all there for us to have. And I think our creator wants us to have those. I don't think he's a God of withholding and a God of punitive and he's a God that's there with his arms open, and all he has is there for us. We just sometimes don't think we're worthy of it. We don't think we should have it. We don't think we're good enough.
Yep.
And I've learned over the years, like, we don't have to earn God's love. We don't have to be worthy of God's love. We don't have to check mark things. It's just, and it's hard, I think, for a finite mind, a mortal, to understand infinite love.
Sure.
Because I love conditionally sometimes.
Yep.
I just
Yep.
do. I wish I could say, no, I'm just this pure love, namaste,
Yeah.
guru. And no, man, I put conditions on my twin boys, and like, I mean, it happens. And
Yep.
so to understand or try and understand the love of our creator is, I think it's hard.
Yeah.
But I think it's vital. You know, what do you do? What dailies do you do? What do you do every day to not stay sober, but to just have a good, healthy, enjoyable, happy life?
So so I connect every morning and every night with my higher power, right? The way that I do that changes day to day, right? It can be an appreciation of the sunrise as I'm having my morning coffee. It could be a prayer and a meditation. It can be reading a daily meditation and just being intentional with connecting to my higher power. Uh, I try and stay present, right? It's like I try and stay in the now and use my one of my favorite things is cognitive behavioral therapy is a go-to for me, where it's like, if I can identify the wacky thoughts as they're happening in the thinking errors and stay connected and ask for help to be able to see what those are, right? Then it's like I can shift my thoughts, and if I can stay plugged into, because it's less today about a checklist of what I have to do, because a lot of in 2009 and in 2016, after I was it felt like I have to do each of these line items or else my life is going to fall off the rails. And today it doesn't feel like that. Today it feels like if I am staying connected, right? Like making those intentional choices to use the tool to stay connected to my higher power, and to think of others, whether it's thinking about what I can do for my wife or my kids, or anybody else who's in the program. And it's like trying to stay in that mindset. And it's like, if I can stay in that sort of trench, right? Like where all of those checklist items exist, it's like, as long as I'm in there, it feels like life just sort of happens, and it happens with, in a pretty, so the last few years have been externally, a lot of stuff has happened, right? Like Hillary's mother died. There have been job losses. There have been incredible things. We got our first home. There have been a lot of ups and downs of life that just happens.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like if I exist in that mindset, right? Like if I can stay focused and connected, then it's like whether it's up or whether it's down, it's like I stay pretty centered, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like I can ride those waves in a way that uh, that feels nice, man. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like it uh, it feels smooth where my life before felt chaotic, right? It's like the highs may have been artificially high, but it's like, man, those lows were awful. And
Yeah.
it's like I still feel the emotions of the highs and the lows, right? The fear, the anxiety, the pain, the joy, the all of that. But it's like I can just sort of ride those waves today for the most part. You know, there are days and sometimes weeks where uh, I do that less effectively. But for
Yeah.
you know, it seems so much smoother uh, than it used to be.
It's a lot easier than using,
Yes,
you
yes,
know. It's a lot cheaper too, by the
yes, it
way.
is. Yes, yes, a lot cheaper.
What
So
what would you say if you had to give, I know we don't like giving advice, but if you could tell the people listening right now, like what's the best advice you got in recovery that you could pass on to somebody else, or what's the best advice you've come up with that you think, oh, that could help somebody.
I mean, the things that helped me, um, it's like try the thing before writing it off. Right, there are going to be suggestions that are given um, that you might dismiss immediately. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, and those could be the very things that help you get to a place uh, where you're sober and happy and connected and stable.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, don't give up. And I know that can sound hollow, but it's like I really had like I thought I was done. I was not planning on coming back um, after I relapsed in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was my last going to be my last hurrah, and it's like I'm so grateful it wasn't. You
Yeah.
know, I'm so grateful that I hung around long enough to have another opportunity, um, and so just hang on. You know, like hang on and try again because it might seem like you've tried before, and what could be different this time, and it's like something could. You know, and it's like your brain might not be able to figure out what that thing is. It probably won't figure it out because it's trying to convince you that nothing could help. But it's
Yeah.
like they're as someone who was blindsided by the thing that I didn't think existed, you're right, the solution that I didn't think existed. It's like it's out there.
Yeah.
So
I
I
like
think,
that. Blindsided by the solution. That's a
yep,
great
yep.
way of
So
looking at it. So, well, buddy, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you being so open about, you know, the things that have happened to you in your life. Because I know there's a lot of men out there that's happened to, and it's hard for men to admit that because of social and cultural and macho and whatever. There's just so many things that play into that. And so thanks for opening that up for people. And if
yeah,
you're out there and you're a survivor and you've experienced that, it's not going to go away until you
yep,
deal with it. It's just going to keep popping back up in addiction. It might pop up in behaviors. It's going to just keep popping up until you expose it and you deal with it. So please get help and be willing to go to any length like you did. Be willing take medications that you thought, oh, that's weak. Well, some of us have chemical imbalances.
Yep.
It'd be like telling a diabetic, don't take insulin, they're weak.
Right. No, show
Take
weakness.
right. Okay, so you have a brain disease, and
Yeah.
some people are short on neurotransmitters and chemicals that normal people produce naturally.
Yep.
And so it's no different. But dude, thanks for coming on, and those of you that don't know this guy, I mean, I hope you go up, on a Wednesday after the 21st and get your chip. I think that would be up at the ranch. I think that would, and then go to that last center you went to and get your chip, because they all need to see you. And this guy, I've never seen anybody hit a 2-iron like Jeff Rowberry. First of all, I played a golf tournament with him, and he hit about a 250-yard draw on a par 5. You don't probably remember that, but it was out at is it that place in Midway or Heber? No, I don't remember where it was, dude.
Yeah.
But I've never. First of all, who carries a 2-iron? That's the question.
I mean, I don't anymore, but I did for a while.
I don't even carry a 4-iron anymore. Yeah. But this guy is one of the kindest, gentlest, most loving people I've ever been around. When you're around Jeff, it's just like this light and this love and this gentleness just exudes from you, buddy. And I love you a lot, and I appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate you being willing to share your story with whoever's listening.
Thanks, H. I love you too.
Okay,
Thank
buddy,
you for
take
having me.
You bet.
Okay.
I'll see you up at. Tell me if you're going to go get a chip. Maybe I'll meet you up there and grab you a sandwich after.
Okay, will do.
Take care, man.
Okay.
See you, bud.